Hi everyone, I'm Michael Uriarte or Dr. Mike, and welcome to Technique Talk, the MYK System and More. This is episode 47 in our series, and today we're going to interview Dr. Carl Rothschild on Trifecta Red Light Therapy. Today we're going to cover information from Dr. Carl's background, how he got into red light therapy, and the benefits just about anyone can receive from this. If you want more information about Trifecta Red Light Therapy, I have the website link in the description below. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, share the video. I have a lot more interviews coming. Whether you're a patient looking to get help or a practitioner looking for a good technique to learn, this series is what you need. Let's dive in. All right, Doc. So tell me what got you interested into healthcare? We'll get started there.
I- I'm going to tell you that it started in 1972. I was a really nutty biologist. I did research. I got scholarships. I went to Stony Brook University, and I was a junior at Stony Brook University. It was a very good science school, by the way. And but I couldn't see how it was going to translate to the rest of my career, rest of my life and a career until someone introduced me to something that was in New York in 1972, was a couple of steps below voodoo, a couple of steps below pure quackery. And that was chiropractic. It wasn't well thought of, but I did my investigation. I did my research. I called chiropractors all over the country, and everyone I called, and I'm not kidding, every one of them that I called loved what they were doing. Now, I was a kind of person, I still am many years later. Um, I loved helping people. Money was not my main focus. I was my version of a hippie of sorts. And my intentions were to, again, help as many people as possible. And money, I felt when you do something great, then the money comes, the rewards come. But if you focus
Absolutely.
on the rewards, I think that's poison. So, and that's what I did. And so 1978, I became a chiropractor. And I loved it. It was fun. I was one of three in an area. When I retired 40 years later from active care, there were 100 chiropractors in the same area. So the profession grew tremendously in that period of time.
Now, were you in an area where there was a school?
Uh, there was a school in Los Angeles, but it was in Los Angeles is very interesting. You know, what in other cities would be a 5 minute trip. If you live 5 miles away, that's half a day. I mean, traffic here is just miserable. So yes, I was I did go to school in Los Angeles, but it was pretty far away from where I opened up. And but that's what I mean. I'm from New York, so I had no intentions of staying in LA, but I met a lot of people, and California at the time was huge in the health industry for natural healing, I should say. And 25% of all the chiropractors around that time in the whole world were in California because it was a mecca. I mean, I'm telling you, people really got into it. They appreciated it. Whereas as opposed to other, like in New York, it was like I said, it was not well thought of. So at any rate, there I am having a lot of fun, getting a lot of people well, helping a lot of people. And then about 20 years in, remember, I'm a wise guy from New York. I know everything. And here's this medical doctor comes up to me who I knew for years. And he hands me about something this big, looks like a flashlight. And he said, I want you to help me change the world and help the world, or whatever he said. And what he said was, you shine a light on people and it's going to make a difference. And I thought he was an absolute nut. I mean, are you kidding me? I knew everything. Light, yeah, I'm going to shine a light on something that's going to make a big difference. But I promised him that I would take it into my practice and use it as much as I could. And man, we were having a lot of fun with that. So, I would just go to everybody and say, look, at the one thing they know about this is it couldn't hurt. And still today, equipment that we're using that is thousands of times more powerful, and yet and still till today, there's never been a recorded side effect. You couldn't hurt somebody with this stuff if you tried. So
Nice.
I would go to my patient and say, look, there's no harm here. So what else do you have besides what I've already been working on with you? Because at that time I'd have some people that I was their primary care doctor. And this one would say, I have gum disease. I helped her. This guy had kidney. That guy had ripped Achilles tendon. I mean, it was so many different things, and we were helping them. It became a lot of fun. I got very serious into red light therapy at that point. And then about 14, 15 years ago from today, maybe 16 years ago, it was discovered that there was an element of light that actually helped with fat loss. And those of you, if you don't know it, there's almost nothing more popular in this country than fat loss. And especially if we're not hurting anything, we're not damaging anything, we're not freezing the fat, boiling the fat, lasering the fat, we're not using radio frequency or ultrasonic cavitation to destroy fat cells. What we're doing is something totally different that does not damage the fat cells. What they found is this element of light can act, and this was new. I mean, they were using that light, but they didn't realize it could help with fat loss. But they were using this element of light that would actually change the permeability of the fat cell wall. In other words, the fat cell wall would become more porous and allow the fat contents to leak out. Nothing being destroyed, and it only lasts for a few hours, and then the cell is back to normal. And it works. It works. And so we got heavily involved with, even more so, and I started manufacturing. And we were involved with lasers, smaller devices, pads, small, all these small devices covering parts of the body. And this becomes significant for the next phase because a few years ago, this thing hit all of us called COVID. And very early on, our practitioners asked me, do I have something that I can help them with that would allow the patient to use equipment without the physical contact between the patient and the provider? And we came up with a bed. Now, with the bed, you can get in and out of the bed yourself. So when people ask me, well, how much does it cost? I said, starting right off from the scratch, you don't need staff. So you're saving yourself. You have a revenue maker here, and you don't have a lot of cost associated with using it. It just needs a massage room, essentially, about the same size of a massage room. And you put it in there, and instead of being able to do one massage, maybe an hour, you can do at least 3 of these, and you get paid. Typically, the payment for the bed is very similar to a 1-hour massage. So you can do 3 times the amount of business, but also it's a magnet like you wouldn't believe. So people will be attracted to this because of the many things that it can help people with. Now, I'm kind of jumping around, but I want to explain to you. Imagine somebody couldn't walk and now they're walking. Someone was losing their eyesight, now they're not. Weight loss, all these different things we're having great success with. So I just spoke to this lady not that long ago, and we were talking about how much success she was having on her body with the bed. And she said, and by the way, I referred 18 people to the office that I'm going to. And the reason is it's important for people to know that it's not satisfied patients that are going to build your business. It's excited patients. They are nuts about this stuff. And, if there are chiropractors out there that can stimulate the excitement in their patients naturally, they just do it. But most people, and chiropractors including, they're not quite like that, but the bed does it. The excitement comes from unbelievable results. I want to give you an example that was unbelievable to me. So this guy's name is Arnett. Now, by the way, I'm going to be sending you all these videos, and you're welcome to share that with your audience. I want to tell you that it's on a spreadsheet. And if you know about spreadsheets, there can be multiple sheets within the spreadsheet. So there are several pages here. If you learn how to do it, on the bottom it says patients, it says providers, and it says other, and things like miscellaneous, I think it says. But one of these videos, his name is Arnett. And Arnett calls up one of our practitioners and said, look, I'm having a heart attack once, if not twice a week. Can you help me? Now, what they had done 12, 13 years ago, they implanted a defibrillator in his chest. So every time he would die, and it was getting to be often, it would zap him back to life. But by the time we met him, it started out once a month and twice a month. And eventually, by the time we see him, it's up to twice a week. And you can see he's fading. He doesn't have long to live, I think. And the practitioner said again, should I even treat him? I said, look, why don't we just treat him for 5 minutes? We know the one rule is that the worst that'll happen with anybody is nothing. So, you have nothing to lose and a lot maybe to gain. Let's see what happens. Just treat him for 5 minutes. A dose is usually 12 minutes. We're just going to treat him for 5 minutes. Now let's see what happens. That patient goes home that night. That was it was about 2 years ago. And he's never had a heart attack since. He's had more treatment, never had a heart attack since. And everything has come back to life. Every organ, every gland, every tissue in his body. One thing he says is that what he couldn't believe is how his energy is absolutely through the roof. So what I'm saying to you is, how could you not get excited by this? So he's out of his mind with this stuff. So wherever he goes, he tells people about red light therapy. So as I do, and he goes into his church, and when you watch the video, you'll hear how he's getting goosebumps just thinking about how his fellow churchgoers responded to how he looked now and how he was, and they would say, "You found life," and he said, "Yep, red light therapy."
Nice.
And they all want that. And
Right.
so it's going to sound like snake oil when I'm done with this whole presentation, where it seems that there is very few things that we have not seen beautiful results with. And I don't mean subtle. And in some cases, it's outrageous. So I'm talking about Parkinson's and dementia and Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis, any autoimmune disease, kidney issues, diabetes, heart issues, Lyme disease, skin issues, musculoskeletal issues. I mean, any muscle, tendon, ligament, bone, joint, I don't care what it is. And even neuropathy. Now, nerves and brain, those are tough to work on. They don't heal very easily. And yet and still with neuropathy, we've seen beautiful results. We had a people that they couldn't put this one person in particular couldn't sleep at night with a blanket on their foot, over their legs, because they had this neuropathy that drove them crazy. And neuropathy is almost a slam dunk. Within 2 weeks, we see phenomenal results with that. That's nerve. And I was talking about multiple sclerosis. We don't reverse what's happened, what we see. What we see is halting the progression. Now, multiple sclerosis is this progressive, disgusting disease that's going to eventually do you in unless you can halt that progression. And that's what red light therapy seems to do. But what I want to tell you is what we're doing here, which is unique and different, is bathing the entire body at the same time. What I was saying to you, what's significant here is prior to this, I was using lasers and pads and panels and this and that. It was fine. And we had fun with it. But now we're into the miraculous range. I know it sounds immature and unscientific. I don't know what else to say. I'm as blown away with some of the amazing results that we see. So when Steve tells us about him having Lyme disease that he contracted when he was 12. And so for 40 years of his life, it was miserable. I mean, there were times getting out of bed was a question. He didn't know whether the next day he would be able to get out of bed. So what kind of career could he have? What kind of education could he have? And it was ruined by this Lyme disease. And then when you watch this video, you'll see why I got goosebumps myself from listening to his conversation, as you will see with almost all these, like Jessica, who had 16 very serious problems, including one of them was uveitis. Now, uveitis is a swelling in the eye, gone untreated, she'll eventually go blind in that eye. So her pressure in one eye was over 180 when it's supposed to be closer to 10 or 12, 180. So the treatment for that, I don't know if you know this, but the treatment for that is an injection in the eye. And when I asked her foolishly, I said, well, what was that like? You got to listen to her response. But that's just one of 16 things that she had, including 20 years of diarrhea, shingles, Lyme disease, so many issues, 3 forms of psoriasis, just anything and everything. She had it. Kidney stones, migraines, all that stuff. And now she doesn't take any of these drugs. She spent much of a month going to doctors, getting injections, and taking drugs. And now she doesn't have to. Now, I'm not against drugs and surgery at all. I am not. And most chiropractors who are smart enough know we're not absolutely against them, but we're against basically using them willy-nilly without thinking twice about, is there an alternative?
Right, or as a first line. Yeah, let's try the less invasive things first. Yeah.
But here's what the problem is in this country. I love this country. Um, but capitalism, which is wonderful, it gives you incentive, it rewards the people that work hard. Sometimes, at any rate, so I have no problem with capitalism. But in capitalism and healthcare is kind of a dangerous thing. So you got this guy on this side over here who can stand to make tens of thousands of dollars if he can do the surgery. An alternative over here, he won't make that tens of thousands of dollars. Now, this is the guy that's making the decision whether you're going to get surgery or not. And even if he's the most noble person, he gets worn down over time. And maybe eventually it will hit him that I'd like to make that money. I'd like to have that Rolls Royce that the guy that I'm sitting next to at a medical convention has, or all of these guys in the row have one, and I don't. So money put in the middle of that whole thing. I'm going to stop with that whole. I don't want to get political here, but anyhow. So with that said, I love what we can do for people, and it sounds insane that it's so global. So I'm going to go through some educational stuff. First of all, I want you to become, I'm sending you these show notes. So I want you all to become familiar with Google Scholar. Now, Google Scholar is a scholarly version of Google. It looks just like Google, but it's different. And you put in the word photobiomodulation. I'll send you that. Photo meaning light, bio meaning tissue, and modulation means it does something. What they coined 50 years ago is the research they were doing on how light can affect the body in a very good way. And they've been doing this research. NASA, you'll hear about that, and so many other countries have been doing a lot with red light therapy. So go to Google Scholar, put in the word photobiomodulation, space, and then put anything after that, whatever you're interested in learning about, and seeing how many articles, double-blind studies, research articles, all kinds of stuff about red light therapy. And it begs the question of why, if it's so researched, people say it just sounds anecdotal. Well, go to Google Scholar and learn about it. It's there. The research is there. The studies are there. And the results are there. Why isn't it everywhere? Let me tell you about this lady that had a wound, 3rd-degree burn, horrible. She was in a big mess. And she was told by the wound center, she was guaranteed 6 months of pain, 6 months of drugs, and permanent scarring. And after the 2nd week of red light therapy, the pain was gone. It started fading even within the 1st week, but it was totally gone within that 2nd week. And by the end of the 3rd week, it was gone. There was no trace of it. Never mind permanent scarring. It was gone. So why wouldn't they have one of these at every wound center? Why wouldn't they have it at every OR? Because right after surgery, necessary surgery, right after that, if the person gets in the bed, their recovery is going to be outrageous, much faster, much more thorough, like a C-section. If you had a C-section, get in the bed right away, the next day, and watch how you will heal so much faster and so much more thoroughly than if you didn't use red light therapy.
And so the treatments, you had mentioned earlier, about 12 minutes is all you need?
It's exactly 12 minutes.
It's exactly 12 minutes, and you can do it every day?
You can do it twice a day.
Oh.
You can do it 3 times a day. So let's talk about that. Most chronic conditions are going to get treated 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So there's time in between for the body to do whatever. But if you have somebody like with that, the 3rd-degree burn, or rip this, torn that, cut that, whatever, I would see that person every day.
Okay.
Now, where the two times a day, let me talk to you about athletes. This thing is so unbelievable, you're going to think I'm crazy. So I'm talking about the entire health industry, fitness industry, beauty industry, because we'll get rid of fine lines and wrinkles. Face is going to look beautiful, but also skin from head to toe is going to look phenomenal. And also, we talked about weight loss. And then the last category is athletes. Now, if you're an athlete, like they are with the NBA, the Olympic Training Center, we've got a lot of athletic facilities that have the bed. They have a tremendous advantage let me rephrase it. If you don't have this bed and you're an athlete, a serious athlete, you're going to be working at a distinct disadvantage. So we have some serious players, and hopefully by next week, we'll have an endorsement by one of the top basketball players in history. And he loves the bed. And it's going to extend his life. He's still playing, but he's not a kid, and it will extend his career significantly. It will get him. So if someone gets in the bed before their activity that day, like let's talk about the Olympic Training Center. So the kids, and they are kids, they get in the bed in the morning, and then their workouts are much more intense, much more thorough, much better. That they get into bed again towards later at the end of the day. When they wake up the next morning, where they normally would be a mess, they would be spent from the day before. They wake up, as they say, fresh as a daisy. So one of the videos I'm going to send you, her name is Chloe Cunliffe, and she's a professional pole vaulter. And watch what happened for her and why it made such a difference for her. And on the provider side is her father, who's a major coach for the Olympic training for field and track, and see what he has to say about using red light therapy, full body coverage. That's important with these athletes. So when you ask me how often, typically it's 3 times a week. So there are several phases, right? There's the acute phase. That means it just happened. It's serious. That's typically 3 times a week. Then there is the maintenance care. So you have your active care, and then you have your maintenance care. Now the maintenance care could be once a month. It could be once a week. An old fart like me, I'm 73. I'm going to get in that bed 3 times a week for the rest of my life because of how it helps me. Now, I don't have a particular condition, but I liken well-being and health like a candle that burns really bright from the beginning all the way down to the bottom, and then sputters out and dies. And that's the way we should go. But in this country in particular, and maybe many others, the last 10 or 20 years of a person's life ain't so great. They're not having fun. They're not mobile. They're almost, in some cases, invalids. And so imagine, I used to teach a class where you'll be dancing when you're 75. And there's a lot of people I found won't be.
Right.
And I'll tell you something. You know why people don't take care of themselves when they're younger? They're not scared enough. They didn't do what I did. I didn't do it on purpose, but as a chiropractor, I got to see a lot of people that didn't take care of themselves. And I got to see them later in their life. And there were times when I wouldn't say it out loud, but I would say to myself, God, please don't let me wind up like that. And so I made it. I didn't come from the most disciplined family in the world at all, but getting scared like that and knowing that that's not how I wanted to wind up, I became more disciplined about how I eat, how I exercise, and of course, red light therapy. And that combination, and yes, I believe in oxygen and I believe in all these other things, but what we found, chiropractors love toys. We got all that equipment in our office and it was nice, but the bed took us to a level of miraculous. Again, it's an immature way of saying it, but I don't know what else to say.
Right,
It's
right.
absolutely incredible.
Well,
And it does sound like snake oil, but I have to tell you in a moment how and why it works from head to toe. But before I go there, I want to introduce you to the website. And the reason is because I'm going to challenge each of you to get 6 visits. Now, I'm not in practice, so I'm not inviting you here, and I have no financial potential gain out of what I'm about to tell you. But you remember in 72, I decided I want to help as many people as possible. One way I can help a lot of you is get you in the bed. Now, we have hundreds of locations all over the country. So you go to the website, you go to the Contact Us page, and look at under the Contact Us page on the left side, it will ask you, because it says find a location nearest you. It'll just ask a few questions, and we'll find the closest location to you. On the right side of that same page is the possibility that you understand as a business, you might be wise to consider bringing something like this into your business. So if you're in the health industry, fitness industry, beauty industry, if you're in the weight loss industry, or if you're in the athletic industry, you should have something like this, and you might as well get the best in your facility. When people ask me how much something costs, I tell them you want the best. You want medical grade, high-end devices that work phenomenally well, but don't get hot. So I might as well tell you now at this point that heat is the absolute enemy. It's something you absolutely need to avoid. Why is that? Heat, if I have somebody lying face down, I have a hot pack on their back, I take the hot pack off, it's bright red underneath because the heat attracts blood to the surface for a number of different reasons. So you don't want that because that blood that comes to the surface will block the penetration of light and you won't get the depth of penetration. So when we first came out with these lights 28 years ago, whatever years ago it was, we called it cold laser, cold therapy, cold lights. They weren't literally cold, but they didn't get hot because we all knew that if we generated heat, it would be foolish that we would be blocking the penetration of our lights. So you go to the website, on the left side, find a location closest to you. On the right side is potentially, you might want to look into getting something like this for your business. I think it's genius. None of our people make less than 10%. I can't guarantee this, but really pretty much nobody makes less than 10 times return on investment. It becomes a magnet that drives so many people and draws so many people to your facility. And then your patients or people that you already know will be also very much lining up to get on this bed. And all it takes is 6 visits. Now, listen carefully. I'm not saying that people only need 6 visits for their problem. But at the end of 6 visits, almost 100% of the people will see a difference where they hadn't seen that before. And after 6 visits, they will notice a difference. And the conversation with them is, this worked really beautifully for you. Now, let's do this 1 month at a time, 3 times a week, for a month at a time to see if we can get you to a more solid foundation where, for example, if we have advanced Parkinson's, and the tremors are horrible and all these symptoms, but sometimes the tremors are the things that bother people more than anything else, even though they have many other conditions involved. And this one lady, her tremors were so severe that she couldn't hold the Bible when she went to church. That was her big complaint. Even though she had many other symptoms, she hated that more than anything. And within 2 weeks, that's 6 visits, 3 times a week for 2 weeks, the tremors were still there, but they were so much more mild that she was easily able to hold the Bible. So it's not just about curing. What it is about getting people a higher degree of well-being. And that's what this is about. Getting the people to experience better life, a higher quality of life. That's what it's about.
So let me ask you this. So in your book, I read your book. I enjoyed your book. You have a lot of great information in there. There's 3 different types, I think,
Let's
of
tell them what the name is and how they can get it.
illuminated healing. It's on Amazon,
Exactly.
and I'll put that in the show notes too.
And I don't make a penny out of it. The profits go to charity, but go on.
Okay, all right. And in there, you talked about red light therapy, low light therapy, and I think infrared therapy. So there's a difference in the I can't I'm gonna butcher this, but
Terminology.
yeah, in the terminology, but in the depth, correct? In the how deep or how strong the light is or something. There
Let's
was
talk
something.
about this because I'm not just worried about depth of penetration. In this case, let's talk about the word infrared, first of all. There is no such thing as infrared. There's either near infrared or far infrared.
Okay.
Far infrared is heat. It's hot. We don't want that. I don't mind that afterwards. The person wants to have, they can also take a hot shower and they can get in a jacuzzi afterwards. But before, we don't want heat. We don't want anything that will bring more fluid to the surface. So we want cold therapy. That means getting in our bed without having just played a game of racquetball or whatever. You get, we call it a virgin body in there that is at a resting heart rate, that is calm. They get as much depth of penetration. And then afterwards, we can do all kinds of stuff. In fact, we include whole body vibration with the device. So the person gets in the bed and then we stimulate, after they get off the bed, we stimulate circulation using the whole body vibration. In fact, when someone buys our bed, they get 32 things with the purchase, which includes the whole body vibration, the training, the coaching, all kinds of stuff, because the chances are very high with we call this business in a box. So we want to give you a very high chance of being highly successful with the use of this equipment. So at any rate, let's go, if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is go over how and why it works.
Sure, sure, sure,
We
sure.
talked about fat loss, and we talked about how red, and only red, no other colors, no other whatever, only red, and red burns red. Only red has been shown, certain wavelengths of red have been shown to be great for somewhat healing, but that's where the fat loss comes from. And again, to remind you, what happens as the permeability of the fat cell wall changes, becomes more porous, allows the fat cell contents to leak out into the surrounding tissue. And then with our unique protocol, we move the fat away from the fat cells and eventually to the liver for use or elimination. That's fat loss. Now, the glorious other side is the everything else section of mechanism, which includes, is mostly the near infrared, cold, near infrared. And near infrared is invisible to the naked eye, so there is no color associated with it. So there are certain wavelengths that we use that are incredible. These 4 wavelengths, we have 2 red wavelengths, 2 different types of red wavelengths, and 2 different types of near infrared wavelengths. We integrate them together in a full body bed and magnify the whole thing many times and drive it into the person's body. But in essence, what we're doing is we're taking 4 elements, beautiful elements of sunlight. So many years ago, they told people, well, why don't you just go out and sit in the sun? Well, Arnett, that was having their heart attacks, could have done that until he was blue in the face. That was not going to help him with his heart attacks. But sun is something you might want to include in your life as well. Not a lot, some sun. and you want to do that because if you're living in a cave, or more likely you're in front of your computer all day long and never getting much sunlight, sun makes sense. You can use it as a walk and, maybe just 10 minutes. So we're not foolish enough to sit here that the bed is everything, because it would be a good idea if you ate smart and if you exercise smart and get some sunlight. Now, do I mind all these other therapies that people do? No, they're fine. Okay. But now that we've seen the miracle, now we see these changes that are just incredible. So I want to tell you that your entire body is made up of tissue, whether it's bone, whether it's hair, whether it's skin. It's all made up of tissue, and every tissue is made up of cells, and every cell has certain organelles, they call them, like the nucleus. But there's also this main organelle that we're going to be talking about called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is considered the powerhouse of the body. It's the reason why you breathe oxygen and eat food, to create this very important molecule called ATP. And ATP is the energy currency of the body. So let's talk about that for a second. ATP, if you have the wrong amount, not enough, it will lead to disease and eventually death. And if you have the right amount of ATP, you can be as healthy as you can imagine. And those are the people that are going to burn like a candle, really bright, all the way from the top to the bottom. So you want the maximum amount of ATP by making sure your mitochondria is working at the best quality and best experience possible. And that's where these lights come in. What they found was, and that this came over years of research, what they finally determined is that certain elements that we include in the bed will stimulate the mitochondria to come back to life, to come back to total health. It was believed that everyone was destined to watch their mitochondria slip and fall, so to speak, what they call mitochondrial dysfunction, that it will eventually dysfunction enough that you will eventually die. But that's not going to be the cause of your death. Old age will be, if you do this right. Smart eating, smart exercise, and get in the bed.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're stimulating the mitochondria using these lights, bringing the ATP production back to normal. And so now let's talk about that. What happens if you're completely healthy? I used to teach a class that included the term sick people get sick and healthy people stay well. And I got so much crap for that. No, this was in the first year of my practice. I was not prepared to debate this like I should have. And the truth of the matter is that if you can stay healthy, then you won't succumb to the things that other people will succumb to. Now, COVID's a great example. The people who died from COVID had comorbidity. In other words, they were already sick. They had other things that made them sick, and COVID did them in. But the people that were healthy, in fact, the healthier that you were when you got hit with COVID, it would just be a cold or just a flu, wouldn't be devastating. And that's the truth, So you want to keep your well-being up to maximum as you can. You want to stay away from the things you already know are not good for you. And you want to incorporate things that we now know are great for you, including light, including smart eating and exercise. Does that make
So
sense?
yeah, it does. It does. So let me ask you this because there's another big group out there, and that would be, and you touched on this in your book, and that would be like people with acne. And so this is good for that kind of a
It's
condition.
it's not another group. What it is just
I mean,
what
a
I'm
group of
telling
people,
you.
group of people.
I know what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you that if you touch the top of your head and work your way all the way down to the bottom of your feet and everything in between, we've seen phenomenal results. The skin is a slam dunk. Acne, how about psoriasis, where this lady had guttate psoriasis, plaque psoriasis, and psoriatic arthritis. She would wake up some mornings where her toes were so swollen and black and blue and painful that she couldn't tolerate it. That's called dactylitis from the psoriasis. The psoriasis is what caused the uveitis, according to her doctor. And the uveitis, if you remember, I told you, did you hear what I said with the treatment for her uveitis was an injection in her eye.
You're right.
She doesn't need any of that. And psoriasis would handle, and all of the skin conditions are going to be handled. When you watch Arnett's video, that's the one who was having a heart attack. What you won't see is his before, where he had black marks on his face, moles, which people get. And when you see him, he didn't even realize it. They were gone. He was so involved with his heart attacks, he wasn't paying attention to his skin. Your skin's going to look great. And I just did an interview with what's going to be a relatively famous gentleman. His name is Mike Torsha. And if you look him up, Mike Torsha was a high-end bodybuilder competing in the same era as Schwarzenegger and the like. And he now has become working with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the whole MAHA program, Make America Healthy Again. And he loves our bed. And so when I'll send you that video as well. It's going to be on YouTube this week, I think. And It's a beautiful video where he discusses all kinds of things and ways that this helped him. Because, imagine these bodybuilders, how they abuse their bodies so intensely that when they're older, they pay the consequences of the arthritis. He also had cataracts. And he went to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, the next time you come in, we're going to schedule you for your surgery for your cataracts. When he goes back 6 months later for the surgical review, the guy said, there's something wrong here. You absolutely have no cataracts, no sign of it at all. Cataracts. In fact, when people get in our bed, they don't wear the goggles.
That was my question. That was going to be my question is, are you supposed to, or it's okay to not? Yeah. So
in 50 years of studying this technology, there's never been a recorded side effect. So what do you think?
That's right. That's right. So
Can
you
you
don't
open your eyes while you're in the bed? It's annoying because it's a very bright light, but it won't damage your eye. But it's better to just keep your eyes closed. Well, how does it get through my eyelid? It can get through your skull and get to your brain. It can get through the eyelid. And think about anything in the eye. We already talked about uveitis. Now I'm talking to you about cataracts.
Right.
We're talking about macular degeneration, macular edema, anything in the eye. Floaters are a great example because those are very easy. We have people with, what floaters are, where it looks like gnats are going across your eye. That stops within 2 weeks. And we had one guy, his floaters were so bad, it was actually significantly blocking his vision, gone. Now, wow. I'm not supposed to make claims. So what I'm just telling you, I'm reporting the news.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just telling you what I've heard, what I've seen. So I'm never going to tell you, hey, don't go to your doctor. I'm not telling you that. But when you go there, don't be surprised when he says, what happened? You were having a heart attack once, if not twice a week. And on this thing, it registers no heart attacks in the last 6 months. I think it's broken. No, I haven't had any heart attacks in the last 6 months. What are you talking about? Did you change your drugs? No. What's going on? And this was Arnett saying, red light therapy, and they don't know anything about it. You know why? Because that's not where the money is. You're not going to get
Right.
rich as you can get doing these things. Let me give you an idea how rich you can get. Ulcerative colitis. One of the drugs for ulcerative colitis is a biological. Now, biological means that they're going to present it to you either typically with an IV or injections, but typically IV. That will raise the price instead of just popping a pill that might cost whatever. Now we're going to raise the value and price of this dramatically. So there's this drug that I'm not even going to mention that starts with an R, but I'm not mentioning it for ulcerative colitis. And the patient came to me with the EOB, explanation of benefit, that he didn't see until months later after he got this IV. And take a guess how much they bill the insurance for this 1 hour IV drip. You
How
have to
much?
take a guess. Now, don't say it out loud. Take a guess in your head and then add a zero. And then tell me how much it comes to.
I don't know. Maybe 100,000.
Okay, well, how about half that?
Okay. But
$50,000
still, that's insane.
for a 1 hour drip.
Yeah, that's insane. I was actually going with 10,000. I thought, well, maybe that's not enough.
Okay, well, now you've convinced me I'm never going to present it this way again. Well, it's only $50,000.
That's
Forget
right. Yeah.
it. $50,000. So how does a non-drug oriented, non-surgically oriented healing art compete? And the answer is in the 40, almost 50 years now that I've been doing this, we don't compete.
Right.
We have lost the battle. And the battle is trying to keep people away from drugs. When I started in 78, my goal with my partner at the time was to get people to take less drugs. And we've not only failed so miserably because people are taking more than ever, but now the advertisement on television is not for the general public. It's for the general public to bring to their doctor because that doctor is not educated enough to know what medication he should prescribe for you. So this commercial is going to tell you what to tell your doctor is the right drug for you to use. It's insane that they even allow this, but this is what, and it's not occasionally, it's all over the place. So obviously it's highly effective that these doctors are now going to prescribe that drug much more often because they go, oh, wait, I didn't know that. Oh, you're telling me I should prescribe this instead of that? Well, you must know better because you watched that commercial. Boom, don't get me started. And I'm not angry. I'm not. I just, it's just an amazing experience that you have with this country where people are allowed to get away with this crap. But anyhow, with
Let
that
me
said,
ask you, do you have mainly the bed is for the doctor and or is that for anybody?
anybody.
So anybody can get the bed. You also on your website, I think I saw you had pads, a pad system.
Yeah, I'm not promoting it that much anymore
Okay, so
because
you don't do that. Okay.
when we went to beds, it took us to a whole nother level of
Gotcha. Gotcha.
miracles. With the pads, it's nice, help the elbow, help the belly, whatever. But I'm
That
into
was
working.
early on. That was years and years. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So anybody can get this. You don't have to be a doctor to get it to because we were talking about putting it in the office and that kind of stuff, but it's
Well, of
for
course, 90 something percent of the people that buy the bed are in business for it. Now,
okay.
there is a percentage of people who recognize how expensive it is to be sick. Those of you that have never been that sick,
Right.
you have no idea what it costs. Figure out what a week in the hospital might cost you. And I am telling you, the likelihood of this bed saving you from stays in the hospital, from drugs, from that kind of stuff. And again, I'm trying to not get myself in big trouble here because I don't know how many hospitals would like to hear that. In fact, people say, well, why isn't it in every hospital? Because it would help the hospital tremendously. But they consider it a revenue killer. They're not going to make as much money if you're all going to get in the red light bed than they would if they were able to just bill you for the surgeries and the hospital stays and all that sort of stuff. If
And
you're
that
not
and that
getting in this
injection.
bed,
Yeah.
in my opinion, if you're not getting in this bed regularly, you're making a mistake.
Right.
Whether you have issues or not, from a preventative point of view, even more important maybe. But most people are not, they get motivated by pain. and they wait until they're in pain. But fortunately, the dentists were smart enough to teach people that maybe you don't want to wait until you're in pain to go see a dentist, because if you have that, it's probably too late. You waited so far, you're probably going to lose that tooth. And the body is similar. I mean, you should be taking care of it before it's a mess, before it starts falling apart.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I did make a challenge, and I want to say it again. Each of you use that bed 6 times. When you go to the doctor's offices, again, you're going to go to the website, trifectalight.com. You're going to go to the contact us page. On the left side of that page, it'll ask you what it says something to the effect of tell us where you are so we can find a location closest to you. You go to the office and say, I want the Rothschild special 3 times a week for 2 weeks. And at the end of those 6 visits, if you don't see a difference, well, whether you see a difference or not, I want you to go back to the website and contact us page on the bottom and send me a note. It'll get to me and tell us what that experience was. And almost 100% of the people are going to say they've noticed a very positive difference in those 6 visits. Now, they may have a long road ahead of them because in Chinese, in Eastern medicine philosophy, it's believed that it should take half as much time to get well as it took you to get sick. And people don't realize that when they stepped over and leaned over to pick up that pencil, and now their back's gone out, that it wasn't the pencil, it wasn't even leaning over, as you are on the verge of losing your back anyhow. You've been having this serious problem, probably for a decade.
Right.
So
Yeah.
don't be surprised if it doesn't go away overnight. Now, the pain might go away, but a lot of people are pain oriented. That's why they take pain drugs, pain relief drugs. And if you're doing that, you're making a mistake if you only do that, because you need to get to the root of the problem so it doesn't keep coming back. And every time it comes back, each episode is going to be worse and then worse until it's too late.
Yep.
I can go on forever. One more thing I'd like to introduce to everyone to is, if you look at my finger, the YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and put in the words the @ sign and then YouTube official, not YouTube official, Trifecta Light official. Let me start over again. Put in @Trifecta Light official when you're at the YouTube channel, and you will see over 130 really excellent videos. And we got more coming out this week.
Oh, nice. Nice. And I'll say, the communicating with you, you're very quick at getting back and all of that. So if somebody does want to send you a message or something, you're very good. You're very prompt
I'm nuts
at
about
responding.
that. I want to tell you something that people won't believe. In the 48 years I've been in practice, I haven't been seeing patients most recently, but I'm in business and I do things. I'm pretty much never late. I was raised by these parents that were nuts, and I got that nuttiness where we're not only not late, we're typically 10 minutes early to
I was
everything.
just gonna say, I logged on to the Zoom call here. I was 5 minutes before, and I'm like, I'll wait a few minutes. You were already there. I was like,
Oh yeah,
whoa.
I'm a nut. And I married a Persian girl. So the Persians, well, her family and all them, they don't know what being on time is. So, when you tell somebody to be there at 7:30, they'll be there at 9.
Right.
9, hour and a half late, 8:30 at earliest. And I'm just used to that. So I don't even I don't let it bother me. Whatever.
Well, Doc, it was great talking to you. I learned a lot about this. I'm sure other people did too. If you have questions or anything, I'm gonna have the information in the show notes, as they say, below. But that was good. I'm glad we finally got to connect. That was good.
Thank you so much.
If you made it this far, smile.